The other day, I was giving a talk at a high school online, and a student asked me a good question. He said, how many times a day is optimal to meditate? So, how many times a day is optimal to meditate? And this was at the end of the whole session. It was a quick session. It was 15 minutes of talk, 10 minutes of meditation, and a few minutes for questions. Between the other questions and his, I didn't have a lot of time to answer, so I gave him an answer. But it's a question that deserves an expanded answer, so I thought I'd give a fuller answer here on my channel. So, what's the optimal amount of times to meditate in a day? A few of the students asked questions with the word optimal. I'm not one to use that with regard to meditation. I told them that multiple times, that meditation is something that comes from within you. So there's not really a good external metric that I can give you. That said, in the beginning, when you're starting to meditate, when you're a beginner, sometimes you need to put some structure around meditation because it's not always fun, or like you might not feel much in the beginning. So if that's the case, and you do start to put a structure, what's the optimal structure? What's the best structure? My answer to the student was as much as you possibly can, without your world falling apart. So you have things you have to attend to. If you're a high school student, homework you have to do, other things like that. Whenever you can find time around what you have to do to keep your life moving, meditate. And I said meditation is a spectrum. You can't ultimately think of meditation as an on or off switch, as like you're meditating or you're not meditating, because there's all different ways to meditate, and as you meditate more regularly, you come to feel that meditation is just the experience of being connected to the present moment. So whenever you're fully here, whenever you're fully present, it's a sort of meditation. You don't have to be sitting on a cushion, you don't have to have your eyes closed, or have the intention to meditate. You can be driving, you can be listening to music, you can be walking in a city, you can be on the subway, you can be doing homework, you can be giving a talk, and you can be meditating. In that you are connected inward and you feel a sort of rootedness and aliveness, even as there is sort of outward activity. So the reason that I say as much as you possibly can is because I don't look at meditation as a practice. I don't look at meditation as something to add to your life. I don't even look at it as a wellness tool, although it will make you well, but that's not the point to me of meditation. There's something much deeper happening here, which is that as a species, we're kind of collectively crazy. We're very lost in our minds, in our emotional complexes, and disconnected from the universality of our being, from what we are fundamentally beyond all of our separative paradigms. And so we experience ourselves as fragments. And this was part of my talk to the students the other night. But I wasn't really able to relate his question to this whole talk because of the time constraint. But we experience ourselves as these fragments, and then our lives start to become kind of filled with conflict and maybe some sense of existential dread. Maybe not consciously, that's asking a lot. Maybe that people are actively experiencing sort of this existential angst. But on this low level, the fact that we feel cut off from everything, from the universe, you could say, from our essence as the whole, makes us feel disconnected and a little bit subtly anxious, although we may never, name that feeling. Oh, that's my, disconnectedness from the whole. People may never realize that's what they're feeling, but there's some low level underneath everything that keeps pushing people, keeps making them feel like they're not complete, like they have to get something. At root, that is a sort of disconnectedness from the whole self. And meditation is a way of stepping out of that identification with disconnectedness, out of that belief in all of your thoughts and all of your complexes, and into the universality of what you are. Maybe that's not how you experience meditation when you start, right? Maybe you start meditating and you don't have any great breakthrough, but the simple act of doing nothing, of disengaging from so much activity starts to put you in touch with something more unconditional and essential. And it's so significant for our race, for our species right now, for humanity, that we disengage from these separative paradigms that are driving us crazy and creating all sorts of problems on the planet. It's so important, it's so fundamental that we do this, that I see it as the most important thing that humans can do. I mean, you have to keep eating, so you do need to, go to work and stuff, but going to work alone for all of us collectively is not going to keep us alive, right? We have climate change, we have mounting threats of conflict between us, and as our technologies increase, those conflicts will only become more intense when they do happen because we have more power. So it's pretty urgent that we get out of all of our crazy, that we sort of get out of this dissonance that we're experiencing between us and within ourselves. And meditation is just the direct way to resolve that. So it's kind of like meditate like your house were on fire, like just really go all in. Keep surviving, but go all in is my answer to that question. It's optimal to just throw yourself into it wholeheartedly. And maybe that won't mean that you'll experience much in the beginning, but I have seen with students who continue over time with a genuine intention that there is some shift that starts to happen in the person, and not just in their capacity to meditate, but in their whole experience of life, of kind of how they perceive the world. There's a shift that starts to happen in their priorities, in what they value, and they do start to feel connected to something bigger than this fragmentary self. They start to realize that they are not ultimately this fragmentary self, that they are kind of a bigger whole that includes everything. So that's my longer answer to the question, that I'm going to give a more radical amount of time that one should optimally meditate, because I see it as just so fundamental and pressing for us as humans.